Welcome along, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. Just before we start, I want to say that we are recording the meeting. So if you don't want to appear in it or you feel that you need to take a break, please do switch off your camera, but you can still listen in. We do hope that we're aiming to share some of the speeches publicly. So yeah, if you don't want to appear, please do switch off your camera, but feel free to take part. We will mute you all in order to make sure that you can hear what the young people are having to say, and also please do switch to speaker view if you know how to do that. That way, we're going to show some videos and a few other things along the way, and you'll be able to see them better. So, to introduce myself, my name's Sandy. I'm the Chief Executive of the Creative Youth Network, and our aim is to help young people achieve their potential. And we have a particular focus on those who face barriers of different kinds. And in order to support young people, we run a range of activities, mentoring, creative courses and programs and youth clubs, all that build relationships with our staff in a way that then helps those young people to move forward in their lives. And you can find out more by looking at our website, which is creativeyouth.network.org.uk. But part of what we do is to make sure that the stories and voices of young people are heard. And that's what this event, We the 33, is all about. It's called We the 33 because 1/3 of all of our regional population is under 25. And today, young people chose the theme of inequality because we can already see the pandemic beginning to make the divides in our society worse. We're seeing our workplaces change, our cities are changing, and our communities are changing. And for some of us, that's a real opportunity. If you have the mental, physical reserves, then you can take advantage of that change. But there are those who already struggle, who risk being left further behind. And we're seeing more and more people without access to digital resources or friends to rely on, many who don't have the money to see them through difficult times. And we know too that if you're Black or you have a disability or you struggle with your mental health, then your opportunities are more limited than others. And our society is already one of the most unequal in the Western world. So it's vital that as we take decisions, that we consider all of us through this time of change. And it is you, the audience, who are and will be making the big decisions in the region and in our nation that will affect all of our lives and will define who might flourish and who might get left behind in the future. And I'm a believer that we make better decisions when we hear voices from lots of different backgrounds and with lots of different stories to tell. Those stories may not give us all the answers, but they do broaden our perspective. They help us to understand the world in a deeper way. And they help us to break down our prejudices and bring us all closer together. And I hope that it may be the stories you hear today will spark a new idea or help change your mind, or maybe just give you an answer that you hadn't thought of before. So today is about listening to young people. It's about listening to that 1/3 of the population. So as a fellow decision maker, I ask that you take the time to listen and ask questions, but resist that temptation to make points. Instead, giving young people the time to tell us their story and tell us their views. This meeting has been put together by young people and it's being produced by young people. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to our host for the next hour and a half, Lucy.
Hi everyone, I'm Lucy and I'm an artist and digital illustrator. I'm currently working at Rife magazine, but I really began to use art as a way to heal from trauma and almost like a therapy. And some of my biggest inspirations are Black women and their stories, because they're so often silenced and we know too much about inequality. But my job today is to make sure that you have enough time to hear the voices of our young people, and I'll be trying to keep you to time and sticking to the agenda. Also, it's my first time hosting, so bear with me. So first we're going to hear from the young people through videos and our 4 speakers. Then we're going to break out into groups where you'll have more of a chance to ask questions, discuss with the young people more in depth what they've said. Other young people will then join your groups and you'll have a chance to hear a range of views and ask questions and discuss. We've given this about 30 minutes, so I hope that's enough time. We'll then come back and hear a response from our 4 key decision makers in the region who will reflect on what they've heard and learned. This meeting should last about an hour and a half. And a couple of technical things, like Sandy said, please go into speaker view, and that way you'll have the best view of the speakers and the videos that we're going to show. We'll also be putting links on the chat as we go, and we encourage you to put questions and comments in that chat as well. So please open up your chat window, and you can always use the reaction emojis as well. So just highlighting again what Sandy said about this really being a chance to hear young people's voices and their stories. So please put your listening ears on and put aside your preconceptions. Before we hear from our 4 young speakers, they've created a film by the Arts Club in South Bristol in which they discuss whether they agree, disagree, or don't know to the subject and the question around feeling equal.
I have the same opportunities as other young people in Bristol.
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Agree, disagree, and don't know. Okay, so we're really split. Does anyone want to talk about why they chose what they chose?
You know, I might change. I don't know, to be honest.
Okay, don't know. Ben, what are you saying?
Mainly because of our area, really. We haven't really got the best schools or anything in this area at all. Our schools are all terrible.
Yeah, totally. That's completely true. Like, there's lots of people in South Bristol that maybe don't even go to other areas of Bristol as well. Cool. And Amy Lee, what do you disagree?
Well, I won't disagree saying I've got more opportunities than some people, because it took me a while to get those opportunities, but now in school, if there's like a sort of mental health workshop or anything like that, usually my teachers will now recommend me for this, whereas with other students at school, because they don't want to fight for it, because they shouldn't have to fight for it, they don't get the opportunities.
Right, okay, so sorry, are you saying that the mental health services at school are just not available for everyone? So some people that...
Yeah.
You've
got to fight with the teacher to get them to recognize that you need
yeah.
support.
Okay. Yeah.
And then fight to get that support when they know you need it.
Yeah. But you were in a position where you had to fight for it as well. Really interesting what everyone's saying. What about you, Lucy?
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, I honestly don't know, because I haven't been deprived of any activities whatsoever, and I feel like, yeah, I've been quite privileged with what I've been able to do. I've mentioned this before. I do theatre on Saturdays, and of course doing this, and yeah, I've become quite privileged just to have that, so
yeah, great.
So now we have our 4 young people speaking. So first up is Lucy.
Hello, my name is Lucy Jones, and before I start this, I'm going to tell you a bit about myself. I'm 12 years old. I've lived in Bristol for my entire life. I went to Cheddar Primary School just down the road, and I'm currently at St Mary Redcliffe Temple. And I think the story I'm about to tell you isn't when it happens to lots and lots of people. Just not many people have the freedom to talk about it. So I first started to notice the flaws in our education system when I was in year 6, I'd say, when I was told that I'd have to dedicate lots of my time revising for my SATs. I remember having to do the same routine every single day, and that really started to take a toll on my mental health. you know, this is going to sound really sad, but some days I would just come home and throw things at the wall because of the amount of stress I was put through at such a young age. And then, as if things weren't bad enough, a couple of kids started to make fun of me, and that really upset me at the time. And I know that my experiences in year 6 really affected the people around me. I can remember the day before my SATs, just crying on the floor of my friend's room with the anxiety that I do something wrong. And I know I'm so lucky to have had such a good system with people I can trust. I think no one should have to go through what I and so many other people go through, especially at such a young age. I know I've got a lot coming for me exams-wise, and I'm here to make sure that others in the same position I was in have people they can speak to about their mental health struggles, because so many people don't have that. And, you know, so many things nowadays, these years are the prime of your life, and I think that's quite ridiculous, because so many kids I've spoken to about this have struggled with mental health because of how our school system has treated them, and I think it's time to change. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Also, it's so hard to speak in front of loads of people, so everyone who's doing it, just you're amazing, and I definitely couldn't have done it at your age, so big up yourself. You're doing so well.
Thank you.
So next we have Mason.
Hello, my name is Mason. I'm 18 years of age, and on the 27th of August at the station at the youth club, we took part in a agree, disagree, and don't know activity, asking us questions such as do we have the same opportunities as other young people in Bristol, and how life has changed during COVID for us as young people. And so technically, I've got a video clip of some of my answers, and they highlight some of the positives and challenges I've experienced as an LGBT plus young person living in a hostel. So, like, currently, I started my GCSEs 2 weeks ago, and I've got aspirations to progress onto university to do family law and eventually progress onto working in child protection services. And obviously I'm just finding it a really hard challenge because of like the place I live in and the surroundings and negative impacts, and it just feels like, well, because where I live with 1625, it feels like 1625 doesn't really help as much as they should do, really. And like, if I could change one thing, it would be for more housing options, not just for me, but for other people, and have a say where like we should be able to live, not just get chucked in like by social services, like telling like you're living here, you live in there, we should have options open for us. But yeah, thanks for listening. Action. Because obviously I live in a hostel in St George's House, and obviously I feel like I just can't be myself around people, if you know what I mean. Because obviously, like thing is, there's all the negativity, and obviously through lockdown I've been there. There's like all negative homophobic abuse and assaults, like where I'm getting just stuff chucking at me, and like people knocking on my door at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it feels like I'm trying to reach out to people and tell them, but it just feels like no one's listening. So I just don't feel safe there, and obviously I just feel like I just can't be myself, you know what I mean? Like no personal space to myself, and I can't do what I want to do, and it just drags me down that much where I've gone back to self-harming, but that's what's brought me back to.
I give you a virtual hug here.
I feel like I've got the support I need, because obviously I've got 1625 workers. I'm in a place where I know they're trying to move me on as quick as they can, because obviously they've known what I've been through and everything. And obviously I feel like I could get out of the house once a week and like people want to be away from coming down here and expressing themselves. Just do what I want to do. I feel like I'm around people who actually cares and actually supports me for what I want to do. And I've got online support as well, because obviously I've got you on Facebook. And obviously I know
I
I've
have
messaged
people.
you. I don't know, because obviously at the minute I'm in CQ.
At least I want to pop like that.
I'm trying to look for a job, but at the same time I want to do college. And
Who
it's
put my
confusing,
hat?
so obviously I want to do all things all together to try and get myself out of it. So I'd rather do, like obviously where I left school with new GCSEs from bullying and social behaviour and social services, it's just messed up. It's messed up my life a bit. Obviously it stopped me from getting GCSEs, it stopped me from confidence from going to college, from getting on my grades. I've been playing college for the past 2 years now, which is not worked out. Obviously, I want to get the GCSEs I want to get, but obviously, I can't because.
Why do you think college didn't go ahead?
I'm
breaking my leg today.
It's just like bullying.
Okay, that's important to know.
It feels like I get it everywhere.
Can I give you some feedback though? That you're really good at trying to go out and find yourself jobs. Okay? And I've noticed that about you. And you've had different jobs, but you are really good at getting up and trying to find jobs and trying to get a job. So I want you to hear, do you hear that? Do you think that of yourself? So I think I've noted it, that like you're pretty good at being motivated and trying to go. You had 2 job interviews yesterday, yeah? So some credit to you. You're excited about your future, Mason?
No.
No. Why? Do you want to share a reason why you've chosen to go to disagree?
I feel like nothing works going to go. I mean, from my point of view now, I think nothing's going to get better.
Again, thank you, Mason. You're amazing. You really, really are. And so next we're going to hear from Tavoy.
Hi everyone. My name's Tavoy. I'm 21 years old. I'm a mum, as well as an access course student. So I'm studying psychology, sociology, and history at the moment. So I moved to England from Jamaica when I was 7 years old with my parents. And as you can imagine, like the whole moving thing was a culture shock for me. So it was like very hard in school and stuff like that. And I ended up being put into care when I was 16 years old. I found it really difficult and it was very hard for me to adjust. I had a social worker, but my social worker would only come in, like, check on me every couple of months, but I don't think that was not like enough support for me at all. I definitely needed more. No one really sat down to talk to me about how I was feeling at like such a turbulent time in my life. So I felt very alone. So I believe counselling should be like encouraged for a few months when a child is newly housed, because it's a real shock to the system. Also, I believe these counselling sessions should not be held like within the I believe it should be held in like a carer-free environment, away from the home, somewhere where the child can like feel like they can express themselves freely, like an unbiased environment. Secondly, I had no real educational guidance. So coming from Jamaica, my parents had no idea about like how the educational system worked in England. So when I was 16 and I finished my GCSEs, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't know where to go, what to do, and no one was there to guide me either. Like I didn't have anyone to be like, oh, this is what you should do next. So I panicked and I was looking for something to do. So I had a couple of friends that were planning to go to college as well. So I decided to go to college, but a couple months later, I decided that I found out it wasn't for me and I dropped out. So I think that there needs to be like a career advisor within like the last 2 years of like GCSE education. I feel like there should be someone introduced that like can help guide that child through like into career jobs as well, and help them understand what they need to achieve to get to where they want to get to. So yeah, And my next topic is about money. When I was in care, I received pocket money, and I was only receiving like £10 a week, which, as you can imagine, like that was not enough. I was going to college. I had to pay for my bus fare to and from, and also lunch money every day. Like, it was not enough. I had to either walk to college, which was about 40 minutes each way, or I had to miss out on lunch because I obviously didn't have enough to get through the week. And because I also had no money, this means that I didn't have any extra money for self-care or social activities with my friends. So I did miss out on a lot, and that can really affect someone's self-confidence, I believe, and mental health as well. It's not healthy to not have money for you. Like, you know, it's a self-confidence thing, and it matters a lot. And my last point is that I never had a house key at 16 years old. And I believe that this is such a safety issue. And it made me feel very alienated, like I was someone who shouldn't have been trusted, and that was like far from the fact. It's unsafe. I think that house keys should definitely be mandatory. So my overall thoughts are that counselling should happen for newly housed children for a few months, and for a career advisor to be put into place, maybe like, you know, when they start their GCSEs, so they can actually have that guidance. That is really important. A lot of people miss out on opportunities because of lack of guidance. So that is very important. Also, that the money is distributed fairly to the looked after child as well, because it might seem vain, but it's really not. It matters. And for keys to be mandatory is really, really, I can't stress it enough, important. So that's all I had to say, but thank you for listening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Toroy. Thanks for sharing your story. Like, it can't be easy to go up and do that, so well done. And finally, we have Mo.
Hello, everyone. My voice is okay? You can hear me? Yeah. I've faced a number of inequalities in my life, but the one that I would like to speak to about today in particular is about my experiences as being a Black man. And I think when it comes to race inequalities, for example, Black women, they have a different and often, in addition, obstacles that they face compared to Black men. But for today, I just want to talk about my experiences. And the best way that I think I could give that across is by sharing with you a poem that I wrote last year. I've only recited it a couple of times, so it's quite new. And as you listen to it, it'll sort of make sense more towards the end. But I called it 2-1. And I will explain afterwards why I decided to call it 2-1. But yeah, here we go. So, Black man who, Black man why, Black man cheat and Black man lie, Black man hits, Black man dives, Black man would never call you twice. Black man whines, Black man dines, Black man only ever texts at night. Black man's Bonnie, Black man's Clyde, Black man could never have one wife. Black man's woman, ooh, she a spice, Black man's woman. Yeah, she's white, Black man's woman, white man's prize, Black man's woman, white man's pride. Black woman, only for the night, Black woman, only for the fights, Black woman, only if she's light. What Black man know is about what's inside. We don't really care about skin tight, as long as she's Black woke and listens to Skin Tight. It's your boy Easy, that's that Black vibes, because Black man's cool, Black man's nice, Black man's blessed, twice, 2 hours late, Black man's time, Black man's hobby, FIFA every night, Black man's bommy, cha, Black man's fly, Black dance moves, do it for the vine. Black man's food, mama's jollof rice, chicken soup, plantain on the side. Black track suit, black top ride. Ghetto, ghetto everywhere where the Uber man drives. Gang, gang life, that's that black mop ties. Shoulda never sang what the cricket cop writes. Cause black man woes ends when a black man fights. Policeman shoots, and black man dies. Black teardrops from his black mother's eyes. Now he's in a black top suit buttoned up with a tie. In a black top box, he'll never see the light. Back to the block, just another night. Single black mother lost her only child's life. And these are the thoughts that blackmail her mind. What if there's only a world with no black stereotypes? So that's the poem. And it's called 2-1 because the first two words is black man and the last word is stereotypes. And a lot of those poetry, a lot of those things in those stereotypes that I've personally experienced, but also, and my sister, she lives in America and she lived there for the last 20 years and her children are growing up there. And a lot of the things that's happening over there abroad personally affects me as well, which is why I've decided to include some of the things from that side. Now, in terms of what we could do moving forward, I think that conversations is where it should start. And I think conversations is a great place for us to overcome our stereotypes and overcome things that we believe to be true about others, which may not necessarily be. Me, for example, one conversation with me, you'll find out I don't actually like jollof rice. I'm more of a rice and peas kind of person with a little bit of coleslaw on the side, but that's just me. So yeah, now to end this, I would like to end with a quote by Buddha, and I could give you a little quick demonstration as well, actually. And I think conversations is a start, but it's not enough. And Buddha, what he said is that 1,000 candles can be lit by the light of a single candle. And the light of that candle will not be shortened. In other words, he said, happiness does not decrease when you share it. Or in our conversation, equality doesn't decrease when you share it. In fact, the light burns much brighter when it's together. Now, that's not a cringy line that I just throw in there. For example, companies have proven to be more profitable, up to 30%, when it's more diverse. So equality isn't just good enough in terms of morally, it actually improves us, all the companies financially. So it's something that we need. But in order for us to get there, we might have to burn down a few systems. We might have to set aflame a new strategy that's more inclusive of our race, gender, sexuality, anything else you want to call it. And in particular, when it comes to Bain, I think that the life of George Floyd and so many countless before them have laid down all their wood that they need. We just need some people with influence and power to set it alight. Thank you very much. That's all for me.
Oh my gosh, Mo. Yesterday in the rehearsal, I heard it, I got goosebumps, and today I can just feel it like, oh, you're all amazing. You're absolutely incredible. Well done to all of you. Yeah, so now you'll all be put randomly into 1 of 4 groups where you have the chance to ask more questions of the young speakers and other young people in the group. So again, please remember this is a chance to listen to our young people and find out more. And you can still put questions and comments in the chat box as well. So we will see you in 30 minutes. Perfect. So welcome back, everyone. We hope that those discussions with the young people today has given you an insight into their experiences with inequality. And before we move on to the final part of today's event, we have another clip of a film to share with you. This time we're sharing with you a dance piece choreographed and performed by a young dancer and choreographer from Creative Youth Network's alumni. Currently working on Bristol Dance Futures programme, Silas Grocott-Kane's work is a personal response to a sexual assault and being a non-binary transgender young person. Such a powerful film, and we're going to make sure to put the link somewhere as well so you can all see the full video. So we wanted to take a few final minutes to hear from our 4 key responders to today's discussions and sharings, what they've learned and what they might take away that will help in the coming months. So the first person is Councillor Cleo Lake. She was Lord Mayor of Bristol and is a tireless campaigner for the rights of minority groups and the Black community.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Well, there's been so much content in this short space of time. My mind is quite blown in many ways, and it's been a powerful testimony. So I've made a few notes on what I've heard and some reflections. And I think in the breakout room I was in, things that really came across were the need for career advice and career guidance, and perhaps even mentors in terms of career. And that really makes me reflect on where the distribution of resources and focus is going within our education system. Many of us would have heard in recent news that more schools may be getting police in schools. And tonight I want to ask, why are we having police in schools? Why aren't we having mentors, counsellors and career advisors? That would make way more sense to me. So we also have to ask, who are the people making these decisions, and where are your voices as young people in amongst that? Of course, tonight is about us, people who may be in a position to make some change, taking that forward. Schools, of course, shouldn't be factories, and there's so much pressure on schools and teachers that if I reflect on my schooling, I feel really, really fortunate to have had teachers who were able to have the time to wander off the curriculum, if you like, and actually go into areas that would give us a rounded experience as human beings, not just a kind of conveyor belt of this is what you need to know, allegedly. And I think we saw that, didn't we? We've been able to reflect when we had the crisis about A-levels and GCSEs, how results were going to be meted out, really. And I thought that was an opportunity to open up discussions. And like many things, I think there needs to be reform of the education system. I also think, and I'm happy to be involved in a project working on this, that there needs to be an independent body, and there are bits and pieces happening, I know, but where there are go-to people who can intervene within school or family and carer situations, who can actually mediate between teachers and institutions and the young people and families, because I do feel that many people are going under the radar and aren't getting the support that they desperately need. People I'm currently working with have got a variety of experiences, and they're also there to show that regardless of what rocky start they might have had, they have been able to go on to achieve some success. And I'd name myself amongst those. And I did grow up in poverty and inequality, but again, through the people I met and some of the encouragement from teachers, I have gone on to achieve. So people who are in our schools is absolutely key. I think I hear as well about the digital exclusion, and that's a big worry. I have worked on that as a counsellor. It's been one of my projects that I've spent time on over the last few months through lockdown. And I find it astounding to hear my 10-year-old son come home and the teachers have asked the class, hands up anyone who hasn't got a laptop at home. Why on earth would you do that? You know, we always need to have that dignity in poverty. That's what I'd advocate. No one's going to want to put their hand up and admit. And in fact, we've come across many cases where people have struggled to get working, and it's because they don't have the resources. So I think every family, every young person needs to have access to a laptop and to be able to get online. So these are some of the practical things that we can do. I think I've probably gone over my 4 minutes, but I hope that was useful. And please, if any of you young people would like to get in touch with me, you're more than welcome to do so.
Thank you so much, Cleo. Second, we have Richard Bonner. Richard is the UK Chief Operating Officer of Arcadis, an international design company, and is President of Business West, the organisation that represents business in Bristol and the west of England.
Brilliant, Lucy, thank you ever so much. And I've just been blown away with such powerful statements. And perhaps I'll call out some of the things I've heard from those who spoke. So Lucy, you really made the case to help us understand that mental health challenges affect so many people, and it affects so many people in their working lives, as well as you clearly articulated in school life. And I do feel that we've got to do more in our working environments to ensure that people can come to work to be in a safe space, but equally to be really supported with their mental health issues. And I think you really helped me to understand that actually people coming out of education and into work come with a set of challenges that perhaps we didn't face as somebody in a slightly older generation. And I'm going to really make sure that I take that back into the areas where I can influence. You also made the point actually around how we can perhaps help to reverse mentor some of our senior leaders, so people who don't necessarily understand the issues that young people coming into the workforce face, and how we bring those issues and get a much deeper understanding. So Lucy, thank you so much. Mason, your story was incredibly powerful. And the point that stood out for me was actually you want to really ensure that you can be who you want to be. And I think in a working environment, sometimes it can be very difficult perhaps for people to be who they really want to be. And I want to make sure that I'm helping to influence organizations to create the environment so that everybody can come to work to be the person who they want to be without fear or prejudice. And you made that point really clearly. And you also made a really strong point around actually that challenge between earning and learning, job versus college. And I think we need to do much more in business to really help to put those opportunities in place where people can both earn and learn, and the apprenticeship programs that are available are a brilliant way of doing that. And we need to create more opportunities in business for people to have those sorts of opportunities. Tavoy, thank you so much. Yours was just brilliant, and you made the point actually around how we want to link to getting great career advice. And we, I think, need to do much more to not just think about offering career advice, but actually coming out and reaching out into communities perhaps that we wouldn't naturally come out to. You really made that point loud and clear, and also, and it was touched on in the chat in the breakout room, how and Cleo as well, how can we create those opportunities for counselling and support into people who are in sort of periods of young people who are in periods of transition, perhaps through different stages of their life, and how can we get more people out of the working world helping young people with their different transitions through their lives. And again, I think we've got more to do to help to understand that as well. And equally, you also talked about those real issues around mental health And that was a very similar point to the one Lucy made. And then Mohammed, again, your poem just sort of blew me away, and you really touched on things that are very dear to my heart, which is about how we can get a much better approach to cultural inclusion in our organisations. You made the powerful statement that diversity adds to the well-being of an organisation financially, and that is then money that we can reinvest in, bringing talent forwards. We need to do so much more to create pathways that stop prejudice getting in the way of young people coming into our organisations. And also, we know at Arcadis, we're trying to understand so many more of these issues, that actually it's difficult sometimes for people who don't come from those challenging backgrounds or from different parts of our community. And you made the point that actually, can we get better connected to people from a diverse range of backgrounds to help leaders and people in power to better understand those issues. And then Willow, in our chat, you did a brilliant job at really bringing all of your colleagues together and sharing lots of important views. Actually connecting to avoid feeling different is really, really important. Representation really, really matters. You made some very simple statements. How do we deal with homelessness? Getting more young people into positions of power, less child neglect, youth clubs, more access to those being open. Thank you so much for everybody. And there's a lot for me to take away into the different business groups that I represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And third, we have Councillor Paul Smith, former Cabinet Member of Housing at Bristol City Council and about to take up role as CEO of LM Housing, a social housing provider.
Thanks, Lucy. I mean, it's been quite inspiring and quite thought-provoking. Of course, one of the things I learned to do in my group was to count to 25. That was down to Ben. But I think that first it made me reflect. I got involved in a youth council when I was 15 in Hartcliffe, and our big issues then were youth homelessness and youth unemployment. At that point, there were 3 million people unemployed across the country, and didn't seem to be any prospect for change. And I think one of the things that's interesting is those issues have not really gone away, and in fact, over the coming year they may become even more stark and worse. And it's a shame that 40 years later that we haven't really moved on much as a society. But also in terms of what was said today, and what we didn't talk about 40 years ago was we didn't talk about mental health. And we didn't really talk much about discrimination and diversity in the ways that we do now. Now, in some respects, I think that's a good thing, that we're able to open up much more about those issues, but it's only a good thing if we do something about it. And I think that's really important. So, I mean, the other speakers have covered quite a lot of what I wanted to say, but a few points. What some of the things that came over to me was the issue of giving young people choice, and genuine choice. So there's no point saying you can do anything, but actually you can't afford the bus fare to get there to do anything, or the fee to get in, or you can't afford the books, or the food, or whatever it might be. It's not real choice if it's not choice you can exercise, if it's just a sort of theoretical choice that people have got, and giving people also, I think the other thing that counts strongly is people's freedom to be themselves. Because actually when we talk about young people, it's almost as if there's this huge mass of the population, they're all the same. And actually what we've seen through here is that everybody's different, their experiences, whilst there's some commonality in their experiences, there's also huge difference. And that might be due to their race, to their sexuality, due to their gender, which part of the city they live in, the difference in their age. Because although a third of the population, you know, this is the 33% are below 25, there's a huge difference between being 25 and 2, and a huge difference between being 16 and 12. You know, that people's experiences are very different. And I think the other thing, you know, that I'll finish on is this issue of safety. And in our group, there's a bit of talk about schools and safety. And I think that there are two elements of that. You know, it's very obvious at the moment for people to concentrate on COVID and physical safety. And obviously that's incredibly important. But it's also really important to concentrate on mental safety and the way people are feeling and reacting to what's happened, which will be a different experience for every person. There needs to be much more respect for those individual experiences within the systems and processes that people experience. So I said that was the last thing, but it wasn't the last thing. I think very often as young people, you're told you're the future and that we have to invest in you because you're the future. But I think it has to be remembered that people live in the now. It's great that you might be the future, but you have to cope with the world and your world as it is now. And we have to make sure that we don't just say to people, you matter in the future, but that you matter today and now and in the moment.
Thank you, Paul. And finally, we have Councillor Sam Bromley. He is a Cabinet Member for Children and Young People in South Gloucestershire Council.
Hi, everyone. First, I just want to thank everyone for these amazing presentations and talks, videos, poems, dances, everything. It's been brilliant, and I've got a lot of notes, so please apologies in advance. I'll be jumping around a bit now, just trying to keep up. But a few things that really stood out for me. I mean, I think we've all picked up on the common theme throughout this of the need for a bridge almost, or career advice or intervention to help young people, vulnerable young people, care leavers in particular, access education, whether in university or college, or even employment through apprenticeships or on career pathways. So that's something I'm really taking on board. I think some things I just want to pick out in particular is Mason. I think you talked brilliantly about the need for these options for career, especially when you're talking about wanting to go to university. You've got that plan, but without that extra support, you're already in a disadvantaged position. So from me, as the Cabinet Member in charge of care leavers in South Gloucestershire, something I want to take on board is what can we do to help. And actually before this meeting, I was in a conversation with one of our heads of service about what can we do to help bridge that gap. And this could be something I think that we shouldn't do in isolation in South Gloucestershire, but absolutely work with partners in Bristol and Bath as well, in North Somerset, but to create a network of mentors in business, or even webinars where we have, for example, women in technology in the tech sector speaking about their journey and how they got there, offering encouragement and advice. As well as that, then we've got care leavers who have gone on to go into business or start their own businesses, or gone on to university, who are able to be that mentor and give that information that they need as well. And so this is something we would love to set up, whether in South Gloucester in collaboration with organisations, or even with the Creative Youth Network. I think that's something, as a takeaway from this, it would be great to have something in the pipeline that we can work together on to really set something up. And this whole concept of allowing young people to have their voices heard is so important. So about 10 years ago, I used to run a youth group, and I remember being invited to talk to some local parish council and district council about youth services in the area. The meeting was at 11 AM on a Monday, and there was not a single young person there. And too often we find that organisations are making decisions about young people. If you're lucky, young people will be consulted. What we need is co-design. We need young people in the room in the design phase of these services. And that's something I really take on board from this session. I just want to thank everyone again for your time. I don't want to take up any more time. I appreciate the time's ticking on, but just really thank you. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you so much, Sam, and thanks for all the key responders today as well. So as you've heard today, inequality is rife throughout our city, region and country, with young people experiencing some of the most adverse inequalities, something we at Creative Youth Network are all too familiar with. An area of our work that we are currently delivering a campaign on is irradiating inequality in the arts for young people. Through our campaign, Creative You, we are raising awareness of the power of the arts on the lives of young people. From helping them overcome barriers, supporting their mental health, building resilience, working through trauma, and giving young people a way to communicate and understand their narratives and lives. But we know that not every young person has equal access to being creative and to careers in this sector. This is something Creative Youth Network is passionately working towards changing. If, like us, you agree that every single young person should be able to have a fair and equal access to being creative and the arts, please help us by signing our petition today, which we're going to share in the chat. So now's just a little time where I can share some of my thoughts about inequality. And as a Black woman, I can definitely say I've felt that. I'm not going to go into my experiences, but more just describe the feeling, because sometimes it's not an experience, it's just a feeling. And it's so hard to put that into words, but it's like experience a traumatic pain, like over and over and over again. Just inequality in terms when it comes to sexism or racism. And it feels like a pain from like the top of my head to the bottom of my toes. And today, for some of you to sit here and listen about inequality is a privilege in itself, rather than experiencing it. But I just want to thank you guys all so much for coming, and a big thanks to our speakers, because that's such a hard job, especially when you're younger, to go and do that. And I definitely couldn't have done it. So just, you're all incredible. And we really are on a journey through uncertain times, and it's important that all voices are heard, especially the next generation. So I'd like you to put any comments or thoughts or observations or things that you've learned in the chat, and we'd really welcome your feedback on what we've done. And we'll also send out an evaluation form after this event. So as you're doing that, we'll be sharing our final film today, which is a piece of spoken word by an emerging artist, Sophia Harari. And Sophia is currently on the Creative Futures programme at Creative Youth Network. And this piece, Hurtin, was created in response to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Black people are hurting. We done been hurting. Black people are crying, brothers and sisters dying. We're constantly fighting, constantly fighting. Younger than me, you're older than me, my children and parents you see. Black people are hurting, we done been hurting. Black people are crying, brothers and sisters dying, dying. We're constantly fighting, constantly fighting, constantly fighting.
Thank you all so much. That's the end.